We are dedicated to connecting families with valuable resources on parenting a child with a disability. Our podcasts are designed to provide families with helpful information and support. Please note that the advice and recommendations shared in our podcast are professional experience and the expertise of our presenters. The presenters are independent professionals and not employed by LAPAPO or Focus. We hope you enjoy it.
Welcome to Three Different Lens. Have you ever had a hard time collecting information for your Katie Beckett waiver? Maybe your first application, or you're reapplying, or you might have been rejected and you just tired and fed up. Well, today, I have a treat for you. Gina Deaton is going to talk all about the process for managing Katie Beckett. Hope you enjoy it. Are you a parent or caregiver that has a child with disability? Welcome to Three Different Lenses.
Through heartfelt conversations and personal stories, each episode is going to offer valuable insights and foster a sense of connection for parents navigating the journeys of raising a child with complex disabilities. Join us as we explore shared experiences and build a community where no one has to face this journey alone.
Together, we're stronger.
Welcome to Through Different Lenses with
LaPapo.
and Focus. Please welcome Gina. Gina, tell us a little bit about yourself and what brought you in here today and why we asked you for your knowledge.
Absolutely. Hi, my name's Gina. I'm, first of all, a special needs mom. I have a young daughter with a genetic disorder. She's 7 years old. And when we applied for Katie Beckett when she was very small, it was a very long and arduous process. And I thought, if I'm ever going to remember this, I need to document it. And so I decided to put it on a website so that it would help me as well as other parents trying to apply for Katie Beckett. So that's why I'm here today.
Thank you. And I think that has very well paid off because I tell a lot of parents about your
Oh,
website.
good. I'm glad.
So, as most know, like the Katie Beckett waiver is really intense.
Very.
So, today we're not really focusing on the eligibility and why you need it, but more of those that have Katie Beckett. How do we maintain our sanity while keeping track of all the things that they need? So, as special needs parents, the abundance of paperwork is incredibly overwhelming.
It is.
So, like a great question that we have that's from a parent is how do you keep therapists on track for renewal when renewal is approaching?
Yes, and that's a great question. So the approach I normally take is I give the therapist a good bit of warning that we're going to need to do a renewal and that we're going to need 90 days of those therapy visit notes because that's, there are a lot of files. They have to make sure each one is finished and electronically signed. That's very important because if it's not electronically signed, they can sign it by hand, but most these days they're doing electronic signatures. If it's not signed in some capacity, it's not accepted by the Katie Beckett office. So what I usually do is when I'm starting the renewal process, you get that notice from Katie Beckett, you get the letter in the mail. I let them know, hey, this is coming. It's full renewal time. Then I tell them what we need because a lot of times they don't know. They may have other parents who have applied for Katie Beckett. They may not. So I try to just explain, like, here's what this process means, what I'm going to need from you. And I go ahead and ask them for 90 days at that point when we start the renewal process and say, go ahead and send me what you have for the last 90 days. And that way it gives them plenty of time to prep that part. And then there's always going to be some amount of time between when you start the renewal prep, all the paperwork, all the gathering, and when you actually send it in. And then I tell them like a week before I submit, I'm going to ask you again for the 90 days. So then anything that catches us up in that time gap, just know that that's going to be coming as soon as I have everything ready to actually submit. So I make kind of two requests with them. One at the very beginning of the renewal process, hey, this is coming. Go ahead and send me what you have for the last 90 days. And then I keep those files saved. And then in the intervening time, and let them know, I'm going to ask you again, like a week before I actually send mail in the packet for any intervening time so that we have 90 days from the time I submit, 90 days retroactive.
So you mentioned the amount of documents that you have to collect.
Yes.
How do you do that? And what would you advise a parent that's maybe first starting off collecting that or during the renewal to how would they best collect that information?
We use Dropbox. There's Google Drive. There are a few different options out there, and some of them require a little bit of investment. For me, that's even just it may be a couple like $20 to $25 a year kind of thing for Dropbox or Google Drive. I keep meticulous electronic records. As soon as I get something, I have a file naming convention, so I know exactly what year and month and what it is. It's a lot to keep up with. So for me, taking a few extra seconds as soon as I receive something by email or download it from the therapist to make sure it gets in the right folder, in the right place, so that then I can find it when I'm ready to put my whole renewal packet together, makes a really big difference. So I strongly recommend, if it's get electronic files from anybody that will give them to you. Try not to get hard copies. If you get hard copies, scan them immediately. Transfer everything to electronic. Make sure you have backups. Don't just save them to your computer, because if something happens to your computer, then you're starting over, and that is incredibly stressful, right? So use Dropbox, use Google Drive, use something like that where you know that there's redundancies in the file saving and the backups, so that it's not all on you to keep all of that on your computer, and protect your computer and make sure it doesn't break or get stolen or die or get a virus, God forbid, right? So you want to save it somewhere where it's protected from those things, because there's nothing more stressful than being like this close to reapplying or renewing, and then you have to start over. That's pretty awful. So, and it does happen to people.
I love that point of maintaining it
Right.
instead of playing catch up
Right.
when our world is already so stressful and
Right.
it feels like we're playing catch up already.
Exactly.
So I love how you're talking about the easiest steps that get you through maintaining it and then storing it versus, oh my gosh, next week I have to have all this information.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love that.
So you mentioned the fact that they're reapplying all over again. Do you know anyone that's had to do that, and how have they managed that?
So the way the Katie Beckett renewals work is every 3 years you have to do a full renewal, and that's literally every form, everything. There may be some doctor notes you don't have to include after the first application, but for the most part, it's pretty much the same as the initial application. In the intervening years, most of the time, there's a little bit of unpredictability here, but and I'm actually going through this right now. In the intervening years between the 3-year big renewals, we call it, or full renewals, they do online renewals, and that's where you go through. It's actually a terrible user interface, and I really love for the government to invest a little bit of money in better better software engineering. But you actually go through an online renewal process, which is still annoying, but it's much less arduous. You don't have to get all the therapy notes. You don't have to fill out the paperwork. It's just like a series of screens. And you have to upload some things and fill in kind of confusing fields, but at least it's a lot less arduous than the full renewals. So at this point, we applied for Katie Beckett when my daughter was 1.5. And then we've now done a full renewal once. And then in the intervening years, we've done the online renewals several times. So part of the struggle is every time you do a full renewal, it's been 3 years since your last one. So you forget everything basically. And that's part of why I created the website and got it all out of my brain, because I realized, like, I'm not going to remember this in 3 years. So I go back to my own website a lot to be like, oh, right, what's the nuance here? And how often do I need a psych eval? And I had to document it myself so that I could remember it. And that's part of the struggle, and why I'm so very meticulous about saving things as I get them, because by the time I need it, it may have been 12 or 24, 36 months, and I won't remember who sent it to me or when. So I have to go ahead and save it in my file system, in Dropbox in our case, so that I know it's there when I need it, because it could be years later that I have to go back and grab it.
I love that. And you mentioned psychological evaluations. What's the general timeline it takes to get those scheduled and receive that report back from them?
Yes, that is probably the thing that has the longest lead time. I usually tell people to try to give at least 6 months. Like, you got to schedule the appointment. Sometimes in 6 months, if you can give yourself longer, I would definitely recommend. Because you have to schedule the appointment, you have to have the appointment, they have to write up the report. There's often some parent surveys involved, like you take your kid, and your kid's there with them for some number of hours, and we've had a great experience with the person who's done our 3 psych evals for us now. But it's, they play and they do these different things, and that's all really fine. You also have like parent surveys that you have to fill out. You have to give to your child's teachers to have them complete. There's multiple steps. You have to send all that in, and then usually they'll have a follow-up appointment with you, and it may be virtual, where you go through the report together so that they can make sure you understand it. You have any questions. It's just a long process, and that is definitely one of the things that takes the most lead time. the biggest factor there is that the psychologists usually are so busy that it's really difficult for them to schedule at any close interval. So I often tell them, like, I'm applying for Katie Beckett. Here's when my renewal date is. If you could work, just keep that in mind. And a lot of the ones who are familiar with Katie Beckett will work with you to try to, put you on the cancellation list and work you in sooner or things like that to help you with the timeline. So I try to be really upfront, but I do try to give like 9 months would be ideal if you can, ahead of when your renewal date is going to be. And you kind of know your psych evals are due every 3 years. So you kind of know, even with or without, like, is the renewal time or not, you kind of know when that timer is going to go off. So it's good just to, snooze your email or whatever it is until the time when you need to start that process with the psychologist. So that you can stay ahead of it. And that way you have the psych eval when the renewal comes up, as opposed to often with Katie Beckett, they'll give you like a 3-month notice that your renewal's due, and that's just not long enough oftentimes to get that psych eval in. So I kind of manage my own timeline with the psych evals because I know it takes longer than that. So I snooze my own reminder basically to like, okay, Gina, it's time to start the process with the psychologist again, like 6 months in advance of when the 3 years has been since the last psych eval.
I love that you're giving action items
Yeah,
because I
that's how
think
my
as a
brain works.
parent, it's so hard when your life is around your child and all their needs and all their appointments and things. I really love that, like, you're giving yourself action items because it's so easy to forget all of those
It is.
things. One thing I hear from parents a lot is that, oh yeah, well, it's time for a renewal, but I haven't heard from Katie Beckett yet.
I would say go ahead and prep, especially the psych eval, that prep it anyway. They're going to want to see that no matter, if it's a full renewal, you're supposed to get them every 3 years. You go to the dentist, they make money off of your appointment. So they're going to tell you when it's time. They're going to remind you, no, you're the one who benefits from Katie Beckett. Me as the parent, I am the one who benefits from Katie Beckett. So I have to be my own case manager when it comes to some of these timelines. So when it comes to the psych eval, you kind of have to be your own case manager and timeline manager, reminder person. You have to set yourself a calendar appointment or whatever works for you, but find a way to remember that 3-year interval for the psych evals. And then also, some of the things are really easy to get, like when you get the renewal notice, like asking the therapist for 90 days. Most of them can send you the electronic files like pretty easily. Um, uh, I will say, if you can get doctor visit summaries, especially from specialists or like important doctor visits, like go ahead and ask for those as you have those appointments. That's another great way to kind of, and just save them in your file system. And that way they're there for when you need the renewal. Some of those things that if you can do it in advance, go ahead. But a lot of the things are, pretty easy. And if you've saved your paperwork, like your PDFs from the last time you did the full renewal, you can kind of like update them. But yeah, the psych eval is the hard one because you're just at the mercy of the scheduling of the schedule availability of the psychologist, right? So you really have to give a lot more lead time there. Yeah.
Love that.
So you mentioned the multidisciplinary team in terms of the psychologists, the doctors, and the school.
Yes.
In terms of connecting all those parts, especially connecting with the school and those different puzzle pieces they have to put together,
Yeah.
how do you best manage that? And what would you tell an overwhelmed parent?
Yeah, it is overwhelming. And you can hire people to help you manage those things, but that costs money that a lot of us don't have, right? So obviously, we've benefited a lot. We have a really great team, and so they tend to ask me for what they need, which is great. But there are times where I forget to tell them different things. So sometimes, like, I'll just have a BCC email list where I send them all, like, we get a new IEP. I send it to all of the therapists at once. I blind copy because they're not supposed to like talk to each other, right? But just it's easier for me if I only have to send one email, like here's the link to the file, like when you get a new IEP, you're supposed to share it with the private therapist, right? And so all that to say, there are ways to simplify it for yourself. And just like, if you get the new IP, just send it to everybody who could even possibly need to just send it in one email and BCC everybody at once. So there are things you can do to simplify it for yourself, but it is overwhelming. I won't minimize that at all because it's a lot to manage. We've been really blessed with a great team that enjoys, coordinating and staying connected and does a really good job with that. A lot of people have trouble where people don't play nice together on their child's team, like the teachers versus the private therapists, et cetera. But yeah, you as the parent, you are your child's case manager, and there's no way around that weight. It is a heavy thing to carry. It's very valid. And I think as a parent, it's more about like, okay, I need a job that's going to be flexible when I need to go and do this thing for my kid. I need to make sure my spouse and I, or my partner and I, are on the same page about divisions of labor. Or co-parenting in that case, right? Like what are they in charge of? What am I in charge of? And also like trying to balance life. This is something we've been working on this year, is like, how do I balance life? I can't, the baseline level of heavy or chaos or demand on us as special needs parents is just, there's only so much you can do to reduce it. And believe me, I've tried, I've done as much reducing as I can. So we're actually starting to like try to balance it with more fun rather than trying to just like always be in heavy zone, trying to have spaces where we can really let loose, have fun with the kids, have fun just, the two of us as adults. So that like that's part of my strategy now, is not just like how do I minimize, and I'm a very operational and efficiency oriented person. So I really have worked hard at that. And I think like troubleshooting those things is really smart. And I'm like always happy to do that with with parents. Like, okay, how can you make this work better for you? I woke up one day and realized I've actually operationalized everything I can. It's just still heavy. So
Yeah.
Yes.
how do I handle that better? Like strengthen myself so that when I'm in the heavy, I can manage it better.
Mhm.
And for me, so, self-care, rest, all those things. And then I realized like I also have to like inject some fun so that I'm not always in the heavy, difficult space. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, we have an IEP meeting. It's hours long. It's really hard and heavy. And what am I looking forward to this weekend that I can say, okay, I'm doing this really heavy thing today. And then on Friday or Saturday, I get to do this really fun thing with my kids, or do this really fun date with my husband, or whatever the case may be. So like, how do you like inject a little bit of fun? Because you're going to need it, because on the heavy days, on the days when you're like, oh my God, I have so many emails to send, right?
You mentioned the physicians. So when you have documentation paperwork that's needed besides the hospital discharge summaries,
Right.
they always ask for them. But you
Mhm.
don't know if the actual doctor's notes from all those appointments are even needed.
Right.
So should you send all that paperwork anyways? You're already sending them a book, or
Yes.
should we just not bother to send them the documentation from the discharge?
Yes, so the hospital discharge, if there's an injury or hospitalization, yes, you always want to send those hospital discharge summaries. And I believe, if I remember correctly, it's from the past 12 months, like once you do a renewal. When you do your first application, there's more of those, just because depending on the age of your child, there may be more years involved before you apply the first time. On renewal, they usually say over the last 12 months or something like that. They'll put a timeline in there for you. For us, when we did our first application, and I looked back at this yesterday because I was like, what did we include? That's a good question. What we included, because she was 18 months, so there was more than 12 months of history at the time. So what we included were, kind of like 3, 6, 9, 12. We did sort of like snapshots of her regular pediatric visits. And then we did specialist reports was what we included, because she didn't have any like specific hospitalizations or injuries. So for her, it was more like showing kind of what was happening. And of course, for her, because she has a genetic disorder, that diagnostic report from the geneticist. But there were other specialists as well along the way, not therapists, but actual, doctor, MD specialists. So I would say, when in doubt, include it. They can always, filter through, but they don't need every single page from every single doctor visit that your kid has ever had. So try to filter it to the things that will really help them see the picture of your child's needs, of your child's challenges. And just remember, like, you want them to see a picture of your kid, not on their best day. Does that make sense? Like, you want them to see a picture of your kid as they usually are most of the time, and on their worst days, not just a snapshot of them on their best day. So you really do want to include the things that are a struggle, especially if it's a diagnostic report where they're being diagnosed with something specific, so that they get an idea of where your challenges are and what the child's level of need is. So you don't want to paint a glowing family portrait style picture of your kid. You want to paint through the doctor notes. And actually, we put a picture of our kiddo on the cover page, like on the table of contents. And you don't want the like airbrushed family style portrait photo. You want a normal, everyday, maybe a day your kid isn't doing so great kind of picture, because they need to see what your kid needs. Not all the things that your kids can do, but what can they not do? What do they struggle with? Where are the hard points? Where are the pain points that you need them to come in and provide benefit? Because that's what it's there for. Katie Beckett is there to help provide level of care need for children, right? And so it's important to make sure you're painting the right picture of what you really need so that they can then understand the need that needs to be met.
I love that you say that because this is you telling the government why your child needs this
100%.
support. So I love that you're explaining that this does not need to be like the milestone portrait of all the wonderful things that your kid does, because you want the government to understand the support that's needed in that. So I love that you go through that, because it's not the time to, this is not our bragging time as a
No,
mama.
absolutely not. That's for Facebook.
Yes. And I have to say, the first time that I got ready for my Katie Beckett, and you read the psychologist notes,
Mhm.
I feel like sometimes when we get all this information from therapy and psychologist notes, which normally most people will probably not see, I feel like it almost breaks your heart, because again, as a parent, you're seeing the bullet points of why your child needs services, and that like really hurts the heart.
Mhm.
So what do you have to say to a mom or dad that's getting ready for the renewal and they're getting all this paperwork together, and it's sometimes just heartbreaking
It is,
just reading
absolutely.
about all the things, especially the psychologist report. That one really shook me.
Uh-huh. Makes total sense.
And no one told me to be ready for that. I
Yeah.
wish they would have, but what would you say to that parent or caregiver that's reading through this, and it's just like it's heartbreaking
It is,
sometimes to
absolutely.
see all the supports that go into the system of caring for your kiddo.
Yeah, that's a great question. We can talk about the administrative pieces, but the emotional pieces are going to come right along with all that. And you may not be able to predict when something that you're exposed to. I remember when every single IEP meeting, I would just need like a day to recover because it's heavy. I'm not in the weeds like that every day. We're just kind of working the plan. And then all of a sudden you have to be in the weeds for an IEP meeting or reading a report or putting together your renewal application for Katie Beckett. It's hard to get in the weeds and really see all the difficult things at once. It's overwhelming. I've done a lot of therapy work, and we, even especially after our daughter was born, and she has a genetic disorder now, but when she was born, we didn't know what was going on or what was wrong. So there's a lot that can come up for us personally, and as individuals, we're parents, we're community members, there's a lot of roles that we play, but never to downplay the fact that I'm an individual human with individual experiences and traumas and difficult things that have happened to me. And so all of these things that are happening with my kid are going to stir up stuff for me that I then need to process. So part of what I've had to learn how to do is move through the emotions, not ignore them and not push them down, not minimize them. Okay, I'm reading this report as an example. This is coming up for me. How do I move through the emotions that's stirring up so that then and for me, and I think for a lot of people, that's the fastest path to get back to doing what I need to do for my kid is actually allowing myself to feel the emotions and move through it. And then I can settle that enough to go work on the paperwork again, right? Or go back to the report or whatever the case may be. And so for me, a lot of that has been like being in therapy and learning some of those things about myself. What are my triggers? What are my ways to move through those things well? There's a really good book I'll just mention called Burnout. And they talk a lot about how to move through those emotions, like how to sit down and have a good cry, what to do with your body to help yourself move through emotions, just as like a very low cost resource as a way to learn like how to those things are going to come up. And I think for special needs parents, they come up more than the average bear, right? Because we have this like naturally very heavy thing that's a part of our life every day about a person that we care so much about. Like you can't distance yourself from that. And so the only thing to do really, like you can't prevent that from coming up. So the only thing that you can do is learn the tools to manage it better. So how do I recognize when it's coming up? Okay, I'm going to put a pin in that, but later today or tomorrow or this weekend, I'm going to need to sit down and process the emotions that are coming up for me. How do I move through that? What are my methods that work best for me to move through those emotions? How do I name them? What are they called? Sometimes that can be helpful. Brene Brown's book on Atlas of the Heart is great for that, just naming the emotions. That's been such a gift for me as a special needs parent. How do I name them? What do I call them? Who are my people that can help me as I'm processing this, talking through it? Maybe my partner, it may be a friend, it may be a community member, another special needs parent that I'm close to, that I can talk through, just like, this is really hard. Like, I'm having trouble processing my emotions here. Is it exercise? Is it walking? Is it, meditating, yoga? Like, there's just so many ways that tools that we can lean on to move through these emotions and difficult things. But I think the important piece is, like, don't ignore them. Don't try to stuff them down, because when things like that get ignored, they tend to just scream for more attention over time, eventually, and get toxic and really cause harm and come out in ways that we're not proud of, right? With our kid or with our spouse or with a friend or something, or with a teacher or with a caregiver or a therapist or something. That sometimes we'll take those negative triggering things and they'll come out against, somebody else will be the enemy, and they're really not. It's just they happen to be a convenient target at that moment. So for me, learning how to process those things, and so that I can move through them and be the parent I want to be for my kid, be the wife I want to be for my husband, be the parent I need to be for my other kids, be the type of mom I want to be with my daughter's therapists and teachers and caregivers. Like, that has been important for me, because I want to be able to do what I need to do for her and not cause damage to a relationship that she needs, like with a therapist or a teacher or something like that, right? So it's important for me to take ownership of my own triggers and emotions that come up. This is objectively hard. Again, how do I manage it better so that I can make sure I can show up the way I need to show up in the situation that I'm in, that I can't change?
I love that. Yeah.
I was going to say, for the parent that's experiencing all those emotions,
100%, yes.
and they're new to Katie Beckett,
Uh-huh.
and they haven't kept known that they needed to keep all these records and do all these things, is there something that they can do to prepare?
Yeah, absolutely. The website I wrote up is free. Like, everybody, please feel free to utilize it.
Can you
And
tell us what
yeah, so it's ginadeaton.com. It's just my name, because that was easy for me to pick something. But if you search the Katie Beckett Guide in Georgia, it'll come up, because it's one of the only ones out there.
It is.
So, and I felt like that was a huge disservice, and it was one thing I could do to correct, a problem, right? That us parents needed support
Thank
with.
goodness for
Thank
you.
goodness.
Yeah.
Thank goodness I
for
had the
you.
option to do it, right? So anyway, I'm glad I did it, because it's helped me too. So please use the website. There are people who can help you with your Katie Beckett application, especially the first time. It can be very overwhelming. And I list them on the website. There's some that are paid. It's well worth the money because of the benefit of the Medicaid. Once you get it, it saves so much money for you that it's worth it. However, I know it's an upfront cost. There are a couple of nonprofit options where there's no cost, or it's donation only. You can walk yourself through the process on the website. I try to break it down and make it like really step by step. And here's what you need to do first. And because that's kind of how my brain works. I'm a project manager, mentally. So I really try to think about the consecutive steps. And I would say, like, you're going to spend a lot more time on it the first time. Your first application, there's just no way around it. And I even put this on the website, but my husband and I like tried to add it up. And I think we probably spent like, I probably spent at least 40 to 50 hours just myself the first time, like all together over
Absolutely.
several months. And it's going to take months.
Yeah.
It's going to be time. There's a lot of doing things and then waiting, and then doing things and then waiting.
I feel like that's a very accurate
Yeah.
timeline of the first time.
Yeah. And so just expect that it's going to be hard. It's going to be a lot of time. It's going to take months. You may have to like fix something and reapply if there's a mistake, or if you get rejected the first time. You may not get approved at all. There's a little bit of uncertainty there. But like if you can, the first time you're going to like invest a lot more time, because there's no way around it. If you can set up some of your organizational systems with that first application, your renewals will go so much quicker. And so it's going to be, there's no way around like the first time being a huge time suck. Like, there's just really no way around it. But there are ways you can go about it that'll help you stay sane. And like, one of the things I would do is like, all right, I'm going to dedicate 1 hour today. Like, that's all I can do today. I'm going to do 1 hour. That's all I have the bandwidth for. What can I get done in 1 hour today? And just really, okay, so it's going to be 40 to 50 hours over the next 3 months. How do you want to spend that time? Do you want to do 1 hour a day? Do you want to do 5 hours on a Saturday? What works for your schedule? And like, block it off, tell yourself, I get to go eat a cookie or whatever your reward might be at the end of the hour. Like give yourself a reward because it's hard work. It's very hard work and it's very heavy work, like you said. So give yourself whatever motivation you need to get through each of your little like time investments and just know like this is going to take a while. I'm going to get frustrated. It's not a clear process. I tell you all the things where it's not clear and I try to make it as clear as I can, but it totally exasperating that they make it as hard as they do. So
It
just
is.
know if you put in the investment on the initial application, take a deep breath, and do it in a way that's going to make your renewal a lot better so that you know you're not going to have to do that whole thing over again. I think the renewal we did, I probably spent, oh gosh, it was probably like 5 or 6 hours on the renewal. I mean, I
Okay,
asked
so the
people for the
50.
right things,
Yeah.
but it's a huge improvement from the first one. But a lot of that was I had saved all those PDFs and I knew like where to go to get the things. I had my website to look back to, so I could just follow. I didn't have to remember it all and figure it out for the first time, right? So the first one just takes so much energy because it's new and it's different. And hopefully I can save you some of those 40 to 50 hours with the website. But just know that like if you can set up your systems and save everything where you can get back to it electronically, you will save yourself a lot of time in the long run. And that helps me like put in the work up front, right? But yeah, like get help if you need it. Like I said, nonprofits, there's some paid like advocates out there that'll help you with the paperwork. But it's going to be a time suck, even if you get help. Like it's still going to be a big time suck because there's a lot you as the parent only you can do that they can't do for you. So
I love that
yeah.
all of this boils down to the little action items that you give
Mm.
yourself, which is what self-care is, right? So, and self-care looks different for everyone.
Absolutely.
It's not 2 hours at the nail salon or the spa for everyone,
No.
especially special needs parents, because we're already very limited. But I love your idea of, you mentioned Brene Brown, you mentioned this book, Burnout. I love that I can take a simple task. It doesn't have to be much, but a simple task of, okay, well, it's going to take me about 15-30 minutes to clean up the kitchen and the kids are already in bed. So I can put in my ear pods and listen to this workshop on this, or listen to this audiobook of Burnout, or oh my goodness, everyone listened to Brene Brown. But I think as parents, and really probably everyone has this vision of self-care as always like this
Like
blowout
pampering.
hair and you're leaving the spa feeling so refreshed. Really, for people, it's these tidbits of moments, and it's how are you going to utilize your small moments, because all of us are chasing sunlight. So utilizing these small moments with little tidbits here and there are what really help us in the long run, instead of always, because it feels like everything as a special needs parent is always very, oh well, oh, we need this now, we needed that
Yep, I
yesterday,
know.
and it always feels like a catch up game. So I love that you just talk about making these small little reminders in your phones and all these things, because it's the little tidbit things that no one talks about that's the real self-care.
Absolutely.
Even if that's just sitting on your patio for 30 minutes or watching Netflix for 30 minutes, Um,
And sometimes self-care is doing something that's important and getting it
yeah.
done. Like knocking it off your list because you know your kid needs
Because
it.
that's going to give you so much anxiety and
Yeah.
distress
And
later
like
on.
you're living in your values and what you know is important. Sometimes self-care is making responsible choices or,
Yeah.
setting your alarm 30 minutes earlier so you have quiet, dedicated time before everybody gets up to do X, that needs to be done today or needs to be done tomorrow or this week. So yeah, like you got to manage it and do what you can in a day. And I think that's when I talk to other special needs parents, they get really overwhelmed and understandably. And a lot of families have much higher medical needs than we don't really have medical needs. So that's like legit serious, that's a daily struggle. And I often come back to like, what can you do today? What can we focus on this week? Like, we're not going to fix all this tomorrow or in the next hour, but like, what can I help you? What can I ask you about next time we're together? Like that you did today or this week or this month that you can just really focus on that'll make a difference right now. I think that's self-care of like managing your bandwidth and focusing on the things that are going to make an impact instead of like getting lost in the existential questions all the time. Jordan Peterson wrote a really good book called 12 Rules for Life. And one of the things that I come back to a lot from that book is you can't be in the weeds every day. Like you can't be questioning the plan all the time. you have to work the plan and then
Mhm.
set aside time
Yeah.
to like evaluate the plan at regular time intervals, once a week, even like, or something.
Yeah.
At this point for us, now it's more like once or twice a year that we
Mhm.
sit down and look at the, with the IEP meetings or with with our daughter's therapists, where we're like evaluating the plan really in the weeds because it's hard and it's heavy. And otherwise, you just work the plan, right? And so that not everything that comes up has to be evaluating the plan.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's just like, oh, just a tweak to the plan. Oh, we're
Mhm.
just working the plan. This is one tiny little step. So not to let every single thing lead you into evaluating the plan or asking the existential questions, but saying like,
Good
okay,
advice.
this is just something we need to do for today.
Mhm.
I just need to get it done and check it off the list. So not making not every single thing that comes up is an opportunity to question the plan. It's
Mhm.
sometimes it's a tweak, it's an adjustment, and sometimes it's just a task that needs to be done, and the plan's actually staying the same. It can feel threatening when those things come up because we don't usually have control over the timing or when they're due. It's a lot of things coming at us instead of things that
Yeah.
we can initiate or control. So to try to keep a little bit of centeredness around this is our plan. When things come at us, we'll evaluate. Do we really need to reevaluate the plan, or is this just a little tweak or just a little task that needs to be done? And try to
Mhm.
keep it in the lanes so that it doesn't feel as overwhelming when they come up. So that's one thing that's helped us.
Yeah.
That is good life advice.
I feel like we're walking out of this
No,
from Gina.
That's very sweet.
That is,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's helped. I mean, it's helped me do better work at work. It's helped me
Yeah.
do a better job with my other kids. So I've learned a ton by necessity, right? From the special needs life, the journey we've all been on here. But honestly, it's made our life richer. And I think we can, all of us who are special needs parents and work with kids with special needs, there's so much richness there, right? And so much, some of the best people I've met have been special needs parents or people in the special needs community, because we do have to deal with all these things that come up, and we have to learn how to manage it and find the joy in the little things and find balance in life. And these people are just incredibly empathetic and compassionate and well-rounded and centered. And because you have to be, you can't really survive in all of this if you don't figure some of those things out. So as hard as it's been, I will say there's a lot of just reward and meaning and benefit and joy in it that comes out of the other side. At first, it's really hard to see all that, of course. When you get the diagnosis, all you can see is everything you've lost or everything that won't be able to be. I will just say, for anybody who's new to the diagnosis, like I think about 6 months, I was under the cloud. And I think that's fairly common for a lot of parents who are in that space. Just know, like, there's going to be a lot of beautiful things that come too, and a lot that you're able to connect with people about, and a lot that we can learn and grow from, that's going to make your whole life more enriched. And not just things you figure out for your kid, but like things that then you translate to other things, and you're like, oh, this is just good life stuff. This isn't just about special needs. This is good for all of me.
Oh, yeah. And when you talk about saving all your documents so
Mhm.
purposefully, I love that because the more that you do that and the older your child gets, here you are signing up for other waivers
Uh-huh.
and doing other
Mhm.
things. So when you
100%.
need that info, if you've been working this system that you kind of
Right.
have in place, you know exactly where you need to go. And it's not as stressful as
Need
going to
needle in
this
a
random
haystack.
desk in
Yep.
your house where all this paperwork is just spread out and you're trying to find all the things. So I really love that that's like setting you up for your future self, because as your kid gets older, it's just more waivers and other things that you're going to be
Absolutely.
applying
Yeah.
for. So it's really setting yourself up for being a successful mom.
Mhm.
It really is.
And reducing your future self stress. Like,
Yeah.
do things that your future self will thank you for.
Saving some, saving
I love
some
that.
wrinkles
Thank
is
you,
the way.
2018 Gina. Like that's,
Yes.
I say that all the time. Thank you, because I put it in the
Yeah.
right folder and I named it right and all the things.
Yeah.
So we do ours by year. So we, have the years, and I save it. I have a title in convention that's like year, month, and then what it is, right? And I try to, like OT eval, so 0612, 2023, 0612 OT eval. Like I have like, and so all the OT evals are named OT evals, so I can
Yep.
find them all really fast. And I can see everything in the last 12 months literally at a glance, because it's all sorted by date. So that's how my brain works to help myself. But I try to do things that future me will thank me for.
And
So,
that's setting you up for
yeah,
when you don't have that Katie Beckett and now you're switching over to everything else.
now
And
comp or something.
if
Yeah.
you're successful in maintaining that part, it's just gonna ease your
100%.
your brain. You
And
know,
that's what you'll find with a lot of these services. A lot of them ask for the same things. A lot of them
Yes.
ask for the same documents. And so if you can keep them in a place where you know where they are and how to find them quickly, it does help when you go to apply for other things in the future.
Yeah. So I love you talked about Dropbox earlier.
Mhm.
Do you, when you're taking in these documents, do you just scan them with your phone or do you have like a phone on do you have an app on your phone that you
You
utilize?
can. There are some apps, and there's actually an inherent iPhone PDF scanning tool now that you take a
Mhm.
picture and it'll kind of fix it so it looks like a PDF. That's actually built in the iPhone now. I think in the Notes app, if I
Yeah.
remember right. That didn't used to be that way. I used to have to have a app on my phone. We did end up getting like one of those all-in-one printer scanners just
Mhm.
because it has the document feeder, and I could put the whole IEP in there and
Oh,
just
nice.
and hit one
Mhm.
button and it's done. So we decided to use that. But you know, obviously the phone's going to work too. It just takes a little bit more time, but it is less expensive, right? So there's a few different options. I think for me, it's like find the system that works for you and just
Yes.
keep working it, you know,
Yes.
figure out
I
what works
think
for you and keep
when I
working
was a parent, I have an Android, but I think Cam Scanner was one that I
it. Yes,
used a
I
lot
use that one too.
because who has fax anymore,
Uh-huh.
first off? But
The
that
government
one,
does apparently.
yes, they do. Yes, they do. But
Yep.
Cam Scanner helped me during those times, and I still use it sometimes from time to time.
Because you can
But
fax from it, correct,
Mhm.
from the app. Yeah.
Yeah, and it scans the document and makes it,
Makes it look like a
squared
PDF, right?
right and all the beautiful things that an iPhone does not do. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I love these little apps and
Mhm.
tools that help parents that are not anything that are unmanageable. It's just easy little things that we
Right.
do.
And my advice is if you get some, like we get the IEPs and they're always hard copy, scan it right away. Like it lands at your house within 24 hours, have it, convert it to electronic.
Yes.
And on the iPhone app, it will make it look like a PDF, like square it up and lighten it and stuff now, in the Notes app, if I remember right. It's
Yeah,
been a
the
minute
Notes.
since I've used it, but I'm pretty sure that's right. But yes, there are other apps too. But yeah, like just as soon as you get anything in hard copy, scan it. Just make a habit of scanning it and filing it away as soon as you have 5 minutes to do it. Again, your future self will thank you, right? So because then it's not at the bottom of some random stack at the edge of my desk, right?
Yes.
So yeah, just like work the system, try to be as consistent as you can and have grace for yourself when you miss it, but like try to be as consistent as you can.
I love you.
Oh, it's like
I think
so
you've
many
got
life
so
tools.
much life tools, so much
Thank
wisdom,
you.
so much
Grace.
that parents will be able to pull from. I want to say thank you
Of course.
for being this amazing human
You're
that
so
you are.
sweet. Thanks for having me. I think y'all are both awesome too. But I really appreciate the conversation.
If you had, first of all, let us know where to find you.
Yeah, of course.
And anything, any tools, any tips of advice that you would leave with parents, what would
Yeah.
you say?
There's so many things, right? But so ginadeaton.com, and I'm sure we'll put a link in the show notes. That's kind of why I'm here, right? Is the website. But the contact form on there does get to me to my email, and I do check it. So that's a great way to get in touch. Please feel free to like share that with people. I really want Georgia parents to be using that because it was hard-won information, and I would love for all of my blood, sweat, and tears to benefit somebody else, right? So please do feel free to reach out to me there, ask questions, or just whatever you want to share. The contact form on my website is a great way to do that. That will get to me. Um, if I had to like distill it down to one thing, I think I would say there's so many options, great options out there that a lot of people would say. I think for me in this moment, what I would say is like, I can't be the best parent to my kid if I don't do my own work
Mm.
on being the best version of myself.
That's good.
And so
Deep.
for me,
Well, empty
for
cup.
me, as an example, like I talked about, we're a therapy family, but like for me, having a personal, my husband and I have a marriage therapist, my husband has his therapist, I have my therapist. And for us, that's like a family rule, actually. And that shifted once we entered into the special needs space because in my mind, I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this well for my kid if I'm not doing my own work.
Mm.
And it's hard. It stirs up so much, right? The special needs stuff. It's a very difficult space. We don't have enough support. There's so many things that get stirred up with it. So my encouragement would be like, of course you can't do this overnight, but like as you're doing work for your kid and investing in your kid getting what they need, you also need to be doing, for me, I also have to be doing my own work so that I can show up the way I need to for my kid over time. So that would be my encouragement is like, don't be so focused on your kid that you forget that your kid needs you. Your kid needs you to be a whole centered, grounded person and so that you can show up for them well over many decades, right? Like for us, our daughter may not be able to be independent as an adult. We don't really know quite yet because her genetic disorder is she was the 71st diagnosis in the world of her genetic disorder. So we know more now than we did when she was diagnosed, but we still don't know exactly what her future is going to look like. For a lot of us, that's, our daughter's probably going to be with us for decades. So as you're investing in your child's future and success, invest in your ability to your own future and success, not just for your child, but also for yourself. But understand that your child needs that too. That actually benefits and children, I would say. Your neurotypical kiddos need my neurotypical kiddos need me to show up for them the way that I need to show up. So that I don't have unhealthy dynamics around my children and what they're able to do or not do, or how they're able to progress. Or I need to work on myself so that I can meet them where they need me to meet them over time.
Yeah.
And I don't have so much, personally riding on their outcomes, right? So that I can be the best parent to them that I can be. Obviously, that has benefits for myself and my other relationships and experiences as well. But understand, like, your kid needs that from you. They don't just need Katie Beckett and therapies. All those things are great. They also need you. They also need you to be a solid human that can help them through life. And that means for me, I have to do my own work. I have to do my own therapy work. That could be books or podcasts. It could be a lot of things, but like to be constantly willing to learn and grow and take those challenges to improve myself and keep growing. So
I'm
that
just
would
gonna
be
say, like, move over, Brene Brown. Like, oh gosh, here comes Gina Deaton.
Stop. This is just what I've had to do to make it. So it's all survival skills.
No, Gina, like everything you're saying is just so real and genuine, and like we can tell that's what makes you a really great mom.
Yeah.
And like a really great member of like our community, because you're here to serve others too.
Yeah.
And that's really special because you didn't just go down this rabbit hole by yourself. You went down this rabbit hole hard, and then you're like, how can I help other moms not struggle with this?
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what you did.
That's
and like
cool. That's my
I
heart
know our
anyway.
mom is here, and parents here in Georgia are just really grateful for it.
Yeah.
That you took the time to like put all that down for us to understand, because that Katie Beckett paperwork,
It's serious.
it is a job.
Serious.
And you made that really approachable.
Yeah. That was the goal. And again, I did it for my future self too. So I'm thanking myself now for putting in all that work on the website years ago. So
You're amazing.
yeah,
Thank you.
You're very kind. I think y'all are amazing too. And I love what both of you are doing, and just appreciate anybody who kind of like voluntarily enters into the special needs space. And obviously other parents too, who've kind of like been forced into it, but then have really done amazing things once they've entered it. So I think it's really beautiful. And I really am appreciating connecting with you both today on all of this stuff. It's great. But thank you for having me, and just for letting me talk a lot about a lot of random things.
We appreciate you.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Thank you all.